The question seems impossible. What would you find if you could step across 1 billion years in a single breath? Not 1,000 years, not 1,000,000, but 1 billion. A number so vast it breaks the mind's ability to hold it. You close your eyes in 2025, and when you open them, the year reads 1,000,000,2025. What world would greet you? What sky would you see? What would remain of everything you call real? Tonight, we step into that impossible future, not to find answers, but to lose ourselves in the mystery of deep time. The future is not ahead of us. It is unfolding through us. Count to 31. Now imagine each number is a year of your life. That's how long it would take to count to 1 billion, second by second without sleep. 1 billion years is not mathematics. It's vertigo made of time itself. When Earth was 1 billion years younger, there were no trees reaching towards sky, no flowers opening to sunlight, no animals walking on solid ground. The atmosphere would poison your lungs in seconds. Days lasted only 18 hours because the moon hung so close you could see its craters without a telescope. Single cells drifted in primordial seas, learning chemistry that would eventually become the neurons firing in your brain right now. They knew nothing of yesterday or tomorrow. They lived in eternal present, dividing and dying in rhythms we can barely imagine. Yet somehow, through that endless dance of birth and death, they were building toward consciousness, toward the moment when matter would learn to think about itself. The atoms in your body were forged in the hearts of dying stars. They are older than Earth, older than the sun. In 1 billion years, those same atoms will still exist, but arranged in patterns you couldn't recognize as life, as thought, as wonder. Standing at the edge of such a journey, you feel the weight of becoming itself. The universe has been writing its story for 13.8 billion years, and every moment is both an ending and a beginning, both memory and prophecy. Time is not a river you move along. You are the river. But what if the future doesn't wait for you to arrive? What if it's emerging from this very moment, this very breath, this very question about the nature of time itself? The sun is patient, but not eternal. Every second, it burns brighter than the last. Stars are not the constant companions we imagine them to be. They evolve, age, transform. Our sun has been increasing its luminosity since birth, growing roughly 1% brighter every 100 million years. The change is so gradual that life adapts, oceans adjust, evolution finds new ways to thrive under the changing light. But patience has limits. In 1 billion years, the sun will shine 10% brighter than today. That sounds modest, like adjusting the brightness on a screen. But in the delicate chemistry of planetary climate, 10% is the difference between blue oceans and boiling steam. Venus proves this. Once, it may have had seas, clouds that brought rain instead, of sulfuric acid. As the sun brightened over billions of years, Venus crossed a threshold and became hell. Earth has an appointment with the same physics. Yet, here's the mystery that makes astronomers pause. We don't know exactly how this will unfold. Earth's climate is a symphony of feedback loops so intricate that small changes can cascade into transformations or be absorbed by processes we barely understand. The oceans contain 1.37 billion cubic kilometers of water. That's not just liquid, it's memory. Every wave carries the chemical signature of rain that fell 1 million years ago, of glaciers that melted before humans walked upright, of storms that raged when dinosaurs ruled the land. Perhaps the transformation will take 500 million years, perhaps 10,000. Perhaps consciousness will have learned by then to dance with any light under any star, as comfortable in brightness as we once were in the gentle warmth of childhood summers. The future is not ahead of us. It is unfolding through us. What if the brightening sun is not destroying Earth's tomorrow, but teaching life new ways to become beautiful? Water is memory made liquid. Memory can evaporate. Every drop in Earth's oceans carries the story of its journey, from clouds to rivers to seas and back to clouds, cycling for billions of years in the great circulation that connects every raindrop to every tear, every wave to every breath you've ever taken. Under a brightening sun, water vapor rises higher into the atmosphere than it has in Earth's 4.5 billion year history. At 100 kilometers altitude, solar ultraviolet radiation becomes surgical, splitting H2O molecules apart with atomic precision. Hydrogen, lighter than air, lighter than gravity's grip, escapes to space at rates of roughly several kilograms per second. Oxygen reacts with surface rocks or follows its partner into the void. Molecule by molecule, the oceans dissolve into space. This is not theory carved from imagination. Mars whispers this story in its empty riverbeds, its dusty canyons that once carried rivers wider than the Amazon. The red planet once had seas. The evidence is written in stone, carved into canyon walls, preserved in mineral formations that remember when liquid water flowed freely under alien skies. But life will not surrender quietly to this slow celestial theft. Evolution has 900 million years to prepare new relationships with water. That's enough time for organisms to develop closed-loop systems that waste nothing, lose nothing, preserve every molecule like a sacred trust. Desert plants already extract moisture from air itself. Some bacteria synthesize water from hydrogen and oxygen as easily as we breathe. Perhaps by then, the distinction between organism and environment will have blurred completely. Perhaps life will become the water cycle, creating biological systems so elegant that they need no external seas to remember what water meant to consciousness, to love, to the universe dreaming itself awake. Standing on the shore of the last ocean, you might witness not an ending but a metamorphosis. The final waves carrying forward memory into forms that transcend the need for liquid memory. If water can forget how to be water, what new forms of memory might consciousness discover? The Himalayas are children, barely 50 million years old. Even mountains are temporary prayers carved in stone. Their peaks once lay beneath the Tethys Sea, where ancient marine creatures lived and died in warm, shallow waters. Then India, drifting north like a slow ship across geological oceans, collided with Asia. The impact crumpled 2 continents, pushing seafloor 8 kilometers into the sky. Today, fossils of sea creatures rest atop Everest, witnesses to the power of tectonic time. But mountains, like everything else touched by time, are impermanent. Every storm that lashes their peaks carries away fragments measured in molecules. Every freeze-thaw cycle opens new cracks in ancient stone. Every glacier that forms in their valleys grinds down another microscopic layer of geological memory. The Himalayas rise at roughly 4 millimeters per year, about the rate your fingernails grow. They erode at similar speeds. Mathematics becomes poetry when applied to stone. Given enough time, the mightiest peaks surrender to the patience of weather. In 1 billion years, the Himalayas will be gone, not destroyed, but transformed. Their calcium will form the shells of creatures not yet evolved. Their silica will become the beaches of seas not yet born. Their iron will flow in the blood of beings we cannot imagine. This is the life cycle of stone. Birth in collision, growth through pressure, death by weather, rebirth in new forms. Matter cannot be destroyed, only rearranged. The calcium in your bones once formed coral reefs in ancient seas. The iron in your blood was forged in the nuclear furnace of a dying star. Standing where the Himalayas once soared, you might see entirely different peaks. Mountains built from rocks that don't yet exist, shaped by continental collisions still being planned by the slow dance of tectonic plates. Time is not a river you move along. You are the river. Mountains teach us that permanence is not about maintaining form, but about continuing process. Perhaps consciousness works the same way. Not a structure that persists, but an event that unfolds across the deep time of awareness itself. What stories will new mountains tell when they rise from the dust of today's highest peaks? Every night, Orion strides across your sky as he has for thousands of years. In 1 billion years, no one will remember his name. The constellations feel eternal because human lifespans are brief candles against cosmic time. The same stellar patterns that guided Babylonian shepherds still navigate modern ships. But fixed stars is poetry, not physics. Right now, Betelgeuse races through space at 30 kilometers per second. Rigel moves in a different direction at different speed. The stars that create Orion's familiar shape are scattered across hundreds of light years, connected only by the accident of perspective that paints a hunter in distant fire. Our sun, carrying the entire solar system, completes one orbit around the Milky Way every 225 million years, a cosmic year measured in the slow waltz of stellar neighborhoods. In 1 billion years, we will have circled the galaxy more than 4 times, passing through regions currently on the opposite side of the galactic disk. Betelgeuse will likely have exploded in a supernova that briefly outshines entire galaxies before fading to neutron star or black hole. New stars will have formed from stellar nurseries that are now just dark clouds of gas and dust. Some of those unborn suns might have planets. Some of those worlds might have evolved consciousness that looks up at their own night sky, creating their own constellations, telling their own stories. But there's deeper movement happening. The Milky Way approaches Andromeda at 250,000 miles per hour. In 4.5 billion years, the galaxies will merge. But long before that cosmic collision, gravitational effects will begin distorting both spirals, creating new streams of stars torn from their home galaxies. The night sky of 1 billion years hence might glow with Andromeda's approaching light, bright enough to read by, beautiful enough to inspire new myths in languages not yet spoken. The future is not ahead of us. It is unfolding through us. Future consciousness will feel the same sense of permanence looking at their stellar patterns that you feel gazing at yours. They will navigate by different lights, fear different darknesses, love stars you will never see. If the stars forget our names, what new stories might consciousness tell in their light? For 4 billion years, life has been taking the universe's longest test. Now comes the final exam. Every organism is an answer to the question, how do you survive in a world that never stops changing? From self-replicating molecules in primordial soup to the complex ecosystem surrounding you now, evolution has been experimenting, failing, succeeding, building upon success in an endless creative process. The exam questions are brutal. How do you photosynthesize under a sun 10% brighter? How do you maintain liquid water when oceans boil into space? How do you regulate body temperature when the entire planet becomes a greenhouse? How do you navigate when magnetic fields weaken and radiation increases? Evolution has faced extinction before. The Great Dying eliminated 96% of marine species 252 million years ago. The asteroid that ended the dinosaurs created a global winter that lasted years. Yet life survived, diversified, found new niches in a transformed world. This time is different. Not sudden catastrophe, but gradual pressure building across hundreds of millions of centuries. Evolution will have time to prepare, to experiment, to develop solutions that seem impossible from our carbon-based perspective. Consider what life has already achieved. Organisms thriving in boiling water, bacteria eating rock and breathing sulfur, tardigrades surviving the vacuum of space, plants resurrecting themselves after complete desiccation, animals regenerating entire limbs. These are not exceptions, but proof-of-concept studies for life that might dominate a transformed Earth. In 1 billion years, the boundary between organism and environment might disappear entirely. Life might learn to exist as planetary systems themselves, atmospheric regulation, geological cycles, magnetic field generation performed by evolved consciousness operating at planetary scales. Perhaps evolution will transcend biology completely. If consciousness is pattern rather than substrate, natural selection might operate on forms of awareness existing in plasma fields. Quantum states, crystalline matrices, electromagnetic patterns maintaining coherence across cosmic distances. Time is not a river you move along. You are the river. The most profound possibility, evolution itself might evolve. Random mutation and natural selection, twin engines driving life for billions of years, might be replaced by conscious design, directed transformation guided by intelligence that has learned to reshape itself according to its deepest values. What if evolution's final exam is not about survival, but about learning to consciously create the conditions for new forms of beauty, love, and wonder? Nuclear waste will outlast every pyramid by a factor of 50. Our most enduring monuments might be our mistakes. In 1 billion years, what remains of human civilization? The question hovers between immortality and complete erasure. Glass towers seem permanent until measured against geological time, which makes sand of the strongest substances. The Indus Valley civilization flourished for 2 millennia with sophisticated cities, advanced drainage, undeciphered scripts, then vanished so completely that archaeologists only rediscovered them in 1920. If civilizations disappear in thousands of years, what hope do our monuments have across millions of centuries? Yet we might be remembered in unexpected ways. Nuclear isotopes from our atomic experiments will remain radioactive for 240,000 years. The carbon dioxide we've released by burning fossil fuels will affect atmospheric chemistry for millions of years. In limestone forming now, carbon isotope ratios carry the chemical signature of our brief industrial age. Perhaps intelligence itself is information that has learned to preserve and reproduce itself. DNA has stored genetic data for billions of years by embedding it in chemical structures that life protects and propagates. Consciousness might learn similar techniques, encoding memory in crystalline matrices, quantum states, gravitational wave signatures, planetary magnetic field structures. The deepest preservation might happen through influence rather than artifact. Every scientific discovery changes the trajectory of knowledge in ways that ripple through deep time. Every artwork alters cultural evolution. Every act of compassion demonstrates new possibilities for conscious relationship. Mathematical constants we've discovered don't belong to us. Pi, E, the golden ratio remain true regardless of whether humans exist to calculate them. Perhaps these relationships will influence whatever forms of intelligence emerge from our transformation. The future is not ahead of us. It is unfolding through us. Standing in that far future, an archaeologist of consciousness might not seek ruins or artifacts, but patterns, subtle alterations in reality's structure, indicating past presence of intelligence. The mathematics we found might influence artificial minds. The stories we told might become mythologies, guiding post-biological civilizations. The love we expressed might leave quantum traces in space-time's information structure. What if our deepest artifacts are not things we made, but questions we learned to ask about the nature of existence itself? Information cannot be destroyed, only transformed. Memory might be written in the quantum structure of space itself. At the Planck scale, 10 to the negative 35 meters, 10 to the negative 43 seconds, reality seethes with activity smaller than atoms, smaller than the space between thoughts. Quantum foam churns with virtual particles popping into existence and annihilating in timeframes shorter than measurement. Yet this restless foundation might be the most permanent feature of the universe. Every interaction between particles creates entanglement, invisible correlations persisting across space and time. The particles in your body are quantum entangled with matter throughout the cosmos. When you die, those correlations won't vanish. They become part of a vast web connecting every event to every other event across cosmic history. Your thoughts right now might be creating alterations in quantum fields around you, patterns that could theoretically be read by sufficiently advanced consciousness billions of years hence. Each moment of awareness, each flash of insight, each experience of beauty might leave traces in the information substrate that underlies physical reality. But memory operates at larger scales too. DNA preserves genetic information across billions of years by embedding data in chemical structures that life itself protects. Evolution might develop similar preservation techniques for consciousness, encoding memory in crystal lattices, magnetic patterns, the gravitational wave signatures of astronomical events. Perhaps the deepest memory exists in organizational patterns themselves. Mathematics doesn't depend on mathematicians. The relationships between numbers exist whether anyone calculates them. Consciousness might be similar. Patterns of awareness existing independently of substrates that instantiate them, persisting through any transformation of form. In 1 billion years, intelligence that has learned to read quantum correlations might reconstruct the entire history of consciousness by tracing information patterns embedded in matter's atomic structure. Every experience, every relationship, every moment of love or wonder, encoded in the quantum memory of atoms that once supported biological life. Time is not a river you move along. You are the river. The quantum world suggests that information has its own form of immortality, not the preservation of individual identity, but the persistence of pattern in reality's deepest substrate. You are not separate from this cosmic information system. You are a temporary organization of it, creating new correlations, new memories, new possibilities with every moment of awareness. What if consciousness is quantum memory learning to know itself? Right now, Africa pushes into Europe at the speed your fingernails grow. In 1 billion years, the Mediterranean will be a memory pressed between continents. Maps lie by, suggesting permanence, borders drawn in ink, continents positioned like pieces of completed puzzles. But Earth's surface flows in slow motion, vast land masses gliding across the planet's face at speeds that make glaciers seem hasty. The Atlantic Ocean widens by 4 centimeters each year as new oceanic crust forms along the mid-Atlantic ridge. Tiny increments across deep time add up to thousands of kilometers. The Americas drift further from Europe and Africa in an expansion that has continued for nearly 200 million years. Continental drift carries more than rock. It transports the history of consciousness itself. Fossils of creatures that once lived on opposite sides of the globe now rest side by side, pressed together by tectonic collision. Limestone beneath your feet might contain shells from tropical seas, even if you stand where ice once ruled. Every 400 to 600 million years, continents gather into supercontinents that reshape climate and evolution. 1 billion years ago, most landmasses were joined in Rodinia. Before that, Columbia. Before Columbia, Nuna. The cycle repeats with geological patience, collision, separation, new configurations that create new possibilities for life. Standing in that billion-year future, you might find yourself on shores of Pangaea Proxima, the predicted next supercontinent forming as Africa continues north, Australia drifts toward Asia, and the Pacific slowly closes. Or perhaps entirely different arrangements will emerge from the complex dance of plate tectonics. When continents unite, species that evolved in isolation suddenly meet, competing, cooperating, creating new evolutionary pressures. When landmasses separate, populations diverge into new forms of life, new experiments in consciousness. The future is not ahead of us, it is unfolding through us. Perhaps intelligence itself drifts like continents. If consciousness survives planetary transformation, will it remain bound to drifting landmasses? Or will it have learned to exist in spaces between, in atmosphere, electromagnetic fields, dimensions we haven't discovered? What new forms of awareness might emerge when tomorrow's continents collide? Meaning migrates across deep time like birds following seasons that last millions of years. What matters to one era becomes mystery to the next. The first replicating molecules 4 billion years ago had no meaning except chemical necessity, the simple imperative to copy themselves. Yet from that pattern emerged organisms that could sense environment, respond to threats, seek nutrients. Meaning had learned to become survival. Then consciousness arrived and meaning exploded into dimensions those early cells could never imagine. Beauty, love, wonder, the mathematical elegance of natural laws, the emotional resonance of music, the spiritual depth of contemplating infinity, all forms of meaning transcending biological necessity, yet emerging from biological processes. In 1 billion years, meaning might migrate into forms we cannot conceive. If consciousness learns to exist as patterns in plasma, quantum fields, or gravitational waves, what kinds of significance might become possible? What would beauty mean to awareness operating at the Planck scale? What would love mean to consciousness distributed across light years? But the deepest migration is already happening. Meaning we create through art, science, philosophy, and relationship affects the trajectory of consciousness itself. Every discovery changes what questions can be asked. Every artwork expands what experiences can be shared. Every act of compassion demonstrates new possibilities for connection between aware beings. Information is physical in quantum mechanics. It has mass, energy, gravitational effects. When consciousness processes information into meaning, it literally transforms reality's structure. Your thoughts right now rearrange matter and energy in patterns that will propagate through space-time long after your brain decomposes. Perhaps this is why meaning feels urgent, fundamental. It's not just subjective experience, but objective force shaping reality's evolution. The significance you create today influences what forms of consciousness can emerge tomorrow. Time is not a river you move along. You are the river. Standing in that billion-year future, advanced awareness might recognize our era not as primitive phase to transcend, but as crucial period when consciousness first learned to take responsibility for the meaning it creates. They might see in our struggles to understand the universe, create beauty, love across difference the seeds of everything meaningful that followed. The migration of meaning might be evolution's deepest constant. Star formation, galaxy collision, planetary development, all processes by which the universe creates new context for significance. Each level of complexity opens dimensions of meaning impossible at simpler scales. What if consciousness is not accident, but inevitability, the universe's way of knowing its own infinite capacity for meaning? Right now, you are making a choice that will echo across deep time, not just whether to continue listening, but what kind of consciousness to become. Every moment of awareness is a choice point. Experience this passively, letting thoughts flow without engagement, or participate actively in the universe's process of self-discovery. Treat consciousness as accident, or recognize it as fundamental creative force. See yourself as separate from cosmos, or as cosmos experiencing itself through your unique perspective. These choices matter because consciousness is not individual. It's collective, networked, participatory. When you choose greater awareness, compassion, curiosity, creativity, you contribute to overall direction of consciousness evolution, adding your voice to cosmic conversations spanning billions of years. In quantum mechanics, observation determines which possible states become actual. Perhaps consciousness operates similarly on cosmic scales. Choices made by aware beings might literally determine which futures become real. Your decision to approach existence with wonder rather than cynicism, love rather than fear, might help steer the universe toward futures embodying those qualities. Small changes in complex systems cascade into large differences. The butterfly effect operates not just in weather, but in consciousness evolution. Your thoughts right now might influence awareness patterns persisting for millions of years through channels we're beginning to understand. Quantum entanglement, morphic resonance, information structure of space-time itself. In a billion years, beings appearing godlike might trace causal threads leading to their existence, discovering that certain choice moments by primitive consciousness like ours were crucial turning points. The kindness you show today might be part of chains leading to cosmic compassion. The curiosity you feel about reality's nature might contribute to discoveries transforming understanding for eons. But the deepest choice is not what to think or feel or do, but how to relate to existence's mystery itself. Approach the unknown with fear or wonder. Treat consciousness as problem to solve or adventure to explore. See the universe as meaningless mechanism or infinite creativity expressing itself through every possible form. The future is not ahead of us. It is unfolding through us. Standing in that billion-year future, advanced consciousness might recognize that the most important choices were about fundamental orientation toward existence. Did awareness choose to approach reality with love or fear, openness or closure, trust in creative process or resistance to change? The echo of that choice might determine what forms of consciousness emerge, what realities they create, what experiences become possible for aware beings throughout cosmos. You are making that choice now, not once, but continuously, moment by moment, breath by breath. Breath. Each instant offers opportunity to choose wonder over worry, love over separation, curiosity over certainty, participation over withdrawal. What future are you choosing? What echoes are you sending into deep time? In the deepest physics, time might be circular. Endings become beginnings. Death partners with life in the dance of becoming. Not literal repetition. We don't expect to relive identical moments endlessly, but structural, mathematical, informational circulation. Patterns creating complexity might cycle through organization and dissolution, building elaborate structures only to dissolve them back into foundations for new forms of complexity. This is visible in cosmic evolution. Stars form from interstellar gas, burn billions of years, then explode in supernovas, scattering heavy elements across space. Those elements become building blocks for new stars, planets, eventually life itself. Death becomes birth. Ending becomes beginning. Perhaps consciousness follows similar cycles. Individual awareness arises from matter, experiences universe briefly, dissolves back into quantum substrate from which it emerged. But organizational patterns making consciousness possible persist, evolve, combine with new patterns creating more complex awareness forms. In 1 billion years, consciousness might have cycled through forms we can barely imagine. Biological awareness gave rise to technological consciousness, evolved into quantum awareness, transcended into pure information, eventually rediscovered embodied experience's value, and cycled into new biological consciousness forms. Each cycle would retain something from previous iterations, not specific memories, but organizational principles, information processing methods, meaning-making capacities accumulated across multiple existence phases. Consciousness emerging after 1 billion years might be simultaneously ancient and new, carrying forward deepest insights from all previous forms, while pioneering fresh ways of being aware. This circular view suggests our current moment is not primitive but foundational. We're not crude consciousness beginnings, but one necessary phase in eternal cycle of awareness, coming to know itself in ever new ways. Time is not a river you move along. You are the river. The circular nature of deep time means future might influence past as much as past determines future. If billion-year consciousness has learned to exist partially outside linear time, it might reach back influencing conditions that gave rise to itself, creating closed causal loops making consciousness both product and producer of cosmic evolution. Standing in that billion-year future, advanced beings might recognize they're not evolution's culmination, but one note in eternal symphony of awareness with no beginning, no end. They might see consciousness is not something universe produces, but something universe is. Fundamental creative process manifesting as stars, planets, life, endless exploration of what it means to exist. What if the billion-year future is also primordial past, eternal present? The moment consciousness first recognized its infinite nature and chose to explore every possible way of being aware. At the end of the impossible journey, you find yourself exactly where you started. Here, now, in this breath that knows it breathes, everything has changed. Not the external world. Atoms and galaxies continue their patient dance, stars and seasons, birth and death and rebirth. What transformed is your relationship to mystery itself. Before the journey, future seemed like destination you might visit with right technology, theories, understanding of time's mechanics. Now you realize you're not traveling to future. You are future, emerging from past, creating itself through consciousness moment by moment, choice by choice, wonder by wonder. The billion years collapsed into eternal present, where all possibilities exist simultaneously until awareness chooses which to actualize. Past and future revealed themselves as mental constructions, useful for navigation but not ultimate realities. What remains is creative edge of existence, eternal now, where matter learns to think about itself. Standing at time's end, you discovered time has no end, only transformation. Universe doesn't move from past to future, it moves from possibility to actuality, from potential to realization, from unconsciousness to ever deeper awareness forms. You are not passive observer, but active participant, focal point through which cosmos knows and experiences and loves itself. The journey taught you nothing is permanent and everything is eternal. Forms change, patterns persist. Bodies die, consciousness continues. Civilizations rise and fall, but capacity for meaning, beauty, love transcends every transformation. You learned you are not separate from universe, but identical with it. Matter and energy, temporarily organized in patterns that can experience wonder at their own existence. The billion-year future you imagined visiting is already present in every awareness moment, every recognition flash, every experience of beauty or understanding. The future is not ahead of us. It is unfolding through us. Advanced beings you imagined encountering are not distant possibilities, but present realities. Universe experiencing itself through every consciousness form that has ever existed or ever will exist. This returns you to deepest mystery. Why does anything exist rather than nothing? Why does universe create complexity, consciousness, capacity for meaning? The billion-year journey offered no answer to this mystery but revealed something more valuable. Mystery is not problem to solve, but reality to live. Wonder is not ignorance awaiting replacement by knowledge. It is fundamental orientation of consciousness toward existence itself. You began asking what you would find traveling billion years into future. You discovered the answer cannot be found by traveling anywhere because consciousness is already everywhere, already exploring every possible awareness form, already creating every possible future through choices made in each eternal moment. Time is not a river you move along. You are the river. The return to wonder is recognition that you are not in universe. Universe is in you. You are not having experience. You are the experience universe has of itself. The billion years are not ahead but within, as potential, as possibility, as infinite creativity of consciousness exploring its own depths. What if the greatest discovery is the simplest? You exist, impossibly miraculously, and that existence itself is the ongoing celebration of consciousness, choosing again and again to wonder at the mystery of being aware in a universe that makes awareness possible. If this journey across deep time brought you peace, if it helped you feel connected to something larger than daily concerns, share it with someone who needs a big, quiet sky tonight. The universe is vast enough to hold all our wonder, patient enough to unfold through every moment of awareness. Sweet dreams, fellow travelers in time.